Many people would look at me and see a handful of demographic identities. I'm a woman, I'm a member of the LGBTQ community, I'm even an immigrant to the United States. But the identity that matters most to me right now is that of caregiver. On March 7th, 2018, I was coming home from client travel. And my wife had been at the hospital that day for a colonoscopy. While she was there, the testing had uncovered stage 4 colorectal cancer. Her prognosis was grim, and as you can probably imagine, our lives were turned upside down in a heartbeat. And part of what I had to sort out was, how would I be a caregiver in the context of my job? Consulting is not exactly known as an industry that is all that easy to manage with home life. The practical reality is it is a very demanding job with very high expectations in terms of the hours we need to be available, how flexible we need to be, the travel that we need to undertake. All of that was going to be really, really hard to do. And it was really in that moment that I stepped back and I recognized what a powerful and profound opportunity for us to really rethink how we approach diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because as I began to solve for that role of caregiver, I saw two really powerful sets of needs. One of those was functional. I had to figure out how I was going to manage and balance this job. And it was working with an incredible set of BCG leaders and mentors that I was able to recraft my job. I formally went to part-time. I took a look at leadership roles that I held and said, some of these have to go away so I can make space. But I found tremendous support from a functional standpoint to really rebuild a model that I could balance with the demands of needs at home. But the other piece of it was profoundly emotional. After almost 15 years of building a career and striving to be successful and continuously reach that next step, I had to take a step back and rethink where I was spending my energy and what my priorities were. And it was really through just absolutely tremendous engagement with my leadership and my mentors that I was able to find those emotional unlocks to say it was okay. It was going to be fine. I didn't have to be anxious about being the breadwinner, the source of medical security for our family, that I could do both, and that I had a firm that was going to support me along that journey. As we entered the early months of the pandemic, we took a look inside BCG and we said, we've done a really great job supporting our women and advancing a host of initiatives to support women who are struggling to also be moms in the workplace. But as COVID unfolded, we recognized, there is a much broader universe of families, of caregivers, whether they be men, women, whether they're caring for children, for elderly, for spouses. There is a tremendously broad range of definitions of what being a caregiver means. It just became so amplified during COVID. And we stepped back and we created families at BCG. The intent behind it was to open that aperture and say, we can have so much bigger picture thinking around what it means to be a family in BCG and how we can support our families as they manage the impossible. This is the unlock of what a progressive diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy can really look like. It means stepping back and really understanding all of those critical contextual factors and identities that make up who our employees are. It means really trying to understand where we have communities of people who might have different practical things that they're trying to solve for, but those needs that underlie it, they share in common. And it means really getting after not just those functional solves, but also helping people emotionally as they move along their personal journeys. This is what success can really look like.